Call a meeting to order. This is the select board meeting, first one of the year, January 6th. Would you please all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up is the acceptance and correction of minutes. What do we have for minutes, Derek?
So you have the minutes from the meetings of December 2nd, December 9th, and December 16th.
I'll make a motion
Go ahead.
that we approve the minutes for December 2nd with corrections if needed. Do you want them separate, I'm assuming?
Yeah, let's just do them separate.
Second.
Motion by Kelly, seconded by Mark. Any discussion, questions? Any corrections? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion carries.
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes of the 9th with any corrections if need be.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Kelly. Any discussion, corrections?
No.
Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, none, motion carries. One more. 13th, was it?
16th.
16th.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes of the 16th with corrections if need be.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Kelly. Any discussion? Corrections? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. I have one announcement. The Goffstown Budget Committee will hold a public hearing at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, January 14th, 2025, in the Craig Heber Theater at the Goffstown High School, 27 Wallace Road in Goffstown, New Hampshire, 03045, in accordance with New Hampshire RSA 32:5, to receive public input on the 2025 budget for the towns, school, Goffstown Village Water Precinct, and the Grassmere Water Precinct. The snow date will be Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 at 6 p.m., same location. The Budget Committee will meet immediately following the conclusion of the public hearing to consider public input and to discuss the recommendations for the annual warrant. Is there anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. And then we have an appointment with Mark Chantal, but he can't be here?
Correct.
And who is somebody here in his place?
Well, I can summarize it for
Okay.
you. We might have some other residents that are here that can
Okay.
speak to it.
This appointment is a request for no engine brake ordinance on North Mass Street.
So,
Go ahead, Derek.
yeah, so Mr. Chantal called this morning. He was not feeling well and apologized for not being able to make the meeting. Back in June of last year, he submitted a request to the Highway Safety Committee for a no engine brake sign on the West Lawn Cemetery as you come in on 114 from New Boston and Ware. The police department and the Highway Safety Committee at that time advised that that would not be a traffic ordinance per se, and they were referred to Town Hall. We did check with the town attorney on this matter, and they said most towns throughout the state of New Hampshire regulate the sound. They actually regulate this through the noise ordinance, that there would be no engine brake within, whether it's a specified time or they would actually add it to the noise ordinance, and then it would be subject to enforcement under the noise ordinance. So Mr. Chantal is going to come in and speak to the board about his experience with it. Like I said, there may be some other residents that are here that can kind of speak on the impact on theirs, but if the board wanted to, we would recommend that if you were going to do something for no engine brake ordinance, that you would add it to the noise ordinance. You would revise your noise ordinance into the format that we've started to use for all of our town ordinances. And you do have a copy of that in your packet. It's at page 3. As you can see, that's a pretty old document from 1997. It was adopted by the select board in May 22nd of 97. But we would, if it's the board's pleasure after hearing from individuals, what we would do is rewrite this in our current format, see if there's anything else you want to, and then take it to public hearing to see if it's something that you're interested in.
I have a question. How would this be enforced? Does it state currently?
So ultimately, it would have to be enforced by the police department. The police department would be the enforcing authority, and they would have to run some type of patrols to cut down on that. And additionally, we would strategically work with DPW to install signage at different locations in town.
Can I ask Eric to
Keep
come up
going.
real quick? Chief, would you mind? Sure. Thank you.
Good evening, Happy New Year.
Happy
New Year.
Chief.
This might be a question better suited for Adam, but are you aware, I'm sure you are, of any other areas in town that we have a noise ordinance for these breaks?
I don't believe we have any in this
Okay.
town.
And can you foresee any issues with, like, how would you go about?
Well, if we're talking, so I'm not a truck person, so excuse me for my ignorance to the Mack trucks. If we're talking about the engine braking or the term, I think it's called Jake braking, I've seen other towns have had an ordinance that says no Jake brakes in this particular area. It's enforced by the police department. It is one of those situations like anything else that we have to be there to witness it. Some of us, myself included, might have to have some additional training on what Jake brakes sound like when they're being used. So that might be something we have to do internally. But other than that, we could probably look at it more if a resident witnesses it, has it on video, or wants to make a statement of a violation and has proof of it happening. We would have to investigate that, putting officers there to go through and investigate it and then determine whether or not the ordinance was violated. At that point, we would say it's a normal truck that comes through every day, and we are able to determine that's the vehicle. We could, obviously go talk to the operator of the company and impose the violations on them. But
Yeah.
it definitely is one of those ones that we would have to kind of be in the area to kind of see it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think it's needed for sure. We need to put some meat on the bones, if you will, is what decibel level would you need to exceed? Because it's not just there, I'll tell you, I live on Patty Hill Road, you want to talk about some Jake
Going
braking,
down
right?
the
They're coming
house.
down Patty Hill
Yep.
into the village, good lord. They're starting way up near Stinson.
Yeah.
And they're breaking all the way into the village.
If we're doing decibels, right, that would be something that the board would have to put in a decibel, what they feel is over a certain decibel, and then we would have to purchase decibel meters. We would have to be in the area when that happens with the meter out, and then be able to see that and enforce it. Whereas the Jake brakes, I'm not sure how it works. Again, I'm just giving my.
You either use your Jake or you don't, there's
Yeah.
not a decibel to it.
Yeah.
It has not, decibel meters, not gonna solve the enforcement issue. You can tell when somebody's on the Jake, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it's very loud. So, how much of a problem is it, and do we need to, like we normally do with any other thing, do an investigation before we just make normally what we say is like if it's a
traffic
speeding
study.
thing, a traffic
Yeah,
study.
I mean, that's what highway safety, we looked at it as, it wasn't necessarily a safety issue, right, in the town. That's why the highway safety committee chose not to take it up, to send an officer out and do all that traffic study, put all those hours into it. To be quite honest with you, I'm not really sure how much of a problem it is. I'm assuming that if you live right here in North Mass, Patty Hill, downtown, South Mass, where the main cut through of this entire town from Ware, Francistown, Henniker, New Boston, come through here, or if you're on, New Boston Road coming this way, I'm sure the residents of that area are gonna be a little bit more vocal than someone, say, living up on the mountain. So, I don't really know I don't know, it's a hard question for me to answer, if it's a problem or not, because I have not personally, nor has my agency, to my knowledge, sat and really tried to study the issue.
I'm curious because, I live on Gorham Pond, so I get it. I definitely understand. However, would like to hear from residents because I'm cautious of the precedent of not only enforceability, but the precedence of opening that up to every other road in our community. We have a lot of throughways and truck-heavy ways, and I don't know if it's worth looking at if other communities are doing this across the board, and then also what the regulations are with 114 and the state roads, and I'm just, yeah, it's a lot to
I've seen
think
other
about.
towns that I've personally driven through have seen, big signs says no engine brakes, no Jake brakes, typically around the congested areas, the downtown areas, or coming off a hill, like a big
Right.
hill. They just don't want people to hear it all the way down the hill. And those appear to be pretty bright and, alerting the operators this is a rule or a law, but as far as the enforceability in those communities, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And as far as how that came about in the community, again, I don't know if they're all over the communities, but
Right.
what I've seen is typically more just in the congested areas of downtowns.
Because that's what I'm balancing, the looking at if that's like a community-wide thing we do, but then also with 114, and then the enforceability for PD and what that looks like.
Yeah, I would, when you talk about the community, putting it out to the whole community as far as like a no Jake brakes ordinance in the community, I would just let you guys know and caution you that several times the agency and highway safety has come to this board about doing the entire town-wide 30-mile-an-hour speed limits unless otherwise posted. And when that went to public hearing, it failed miserably almost 10, 15 years ago, and then I think in the last maybe 5 years we tried that
Right.
again. So that was another thing, the community did not want to see that kind of broad stroke of the whole community.
So the process is if we decide to do this, we would have to hold 2 public hearings
Yes, to amend the ordinance,
to
yes.
amend the ordinance, and
Yeah.
then we hold another meeting out there to accept it.
Yes.
Okay. So it would be advantageous for us before we did anything is to make sure we got a trucking company or a trucker or somebody just to tell us, exactly what effect that has on safety as far as the truck coming into town.
So most of the ordinances that I've seen in New Hampshire do have special provisions when it's used in an emergency. So there is an exception for when it's in an emergency. I don't know that that would apply for a truck that's coming through every morning through 114 through the village and is, hitting it at the same point
Yeah.
once they hit Church Street.
And
But-
that was my next question is, does the state have to be involved in it when it's a state road? Or is that?
I would have to reach out to DOT because you're not regulating the traffic part of it, you're regulating the noise.
Sound of the vehicle.
You're regulating because it's my understanding, some of the engine brakes may have some type of muffling system
They do.
on them, so it may not be as loud.
But whereas the DOT is also the regulatory authority on trucks, I think it'd be advantageous to get
Yeah, absolutely.
their input on it.
Yep.
You know.
We can reach out to Area 5 and see how they've dealt with these requests from other communities.
And I can reach out to Troop G,
Yep.
who deals with enforcing the motor vehicle carrier code.
And I would think there's some local knowledge available as well. Donnie Ball comes to mind, John Neville, anybody who's running a trucking company knows how this works. But as far as I'm concerned, I would like to see it town-wide, because it doesn't really matter what road you're on. What this is dealing with is a disruption of people's lives. It doesn't matter if you're on a main road, on a back road, coming down Back Mountain Road. If you're disrupting people's lives with these types of braking mechanisms, I don't think it matters where it is in town. But that's my personal opinion. So I would think it would be
I
a
get it.
town-wide thing and maybe a subsection of our noise ordinance.
Jim?
I looked at this ordinance and I thought of a certain club in town, and maybe we can clean this ordinance up to address that situation and other situations like that. I think, maybe making after 3 violations, making it a misdemeanor or something, that says some teeth in there, it's not just the cost of doing business, things like that. I think that would be a smart, nice time to,
Oh, there's all kinds of things. And I
Yeah.
think the ordinance for event ordinance supersedes more or less this ordinance, wouldn't it?
I don't believe so.
It
No,
wouldn't.
No.
I think,
But I think this ordinance to this point is almost 30 years
Yep.
old and is really showing its age.
It's not worded very well.
So, let's do this then, let's just say, along with the Jake brake or the engine brake, we look at the whole ordinance
Okay,
and update it.
okay.
Would that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
Makes
I would
sense
like to also include motorcycles in there.
Yeah.
I know we're being picky, but
Yeah, that's kinda hard to do, then you gotta have the decibel meters and,
if I may,
go ahead.
we do have, I do, on a side note, on the ordinances, Officer O'Brien, when she was on light duty, went through and put all of our ordinance together, some that need to be,
Yeah,
repealed, or some that state law, and she went through and did that, have them in my office, and I'm just putting that all together for you guys at some point, when we're ready to sit down and say, these are the ordinance that we think need to kind of be repealed.
was this one of the
This
ones
Part
you
of it
looked
is
at?
kind of looking into that, yes. So before Derek dives into that, I have something in my office that the whole board should be able to look at some point.
All right.
So,
So let's set that up for,
So I think it'd be realistic to probably bring a draft back to you. Right now, you have a meeting scheduled for January 27th. You have a meeting next Monday with Budget Committee and some other items we have this week. It would be very difficult to get you a draft, but I think we could get you a draft to include the engine braking as well as update some of the language for your last meeting in January. And then the board can review it, see if you want to make any changes, and then can provide you a schedule to bring it to public hearing if you so please.
And also, do we want to either let Mr. Chantal know that, or offer that he can submit like an email or something if he wants to share with us?
I'd be happy to let him know that I'll be bringing a draft back on the 27th, and as it'll be part of your packet. On the 27th, he could speak during public comment, or if you wanted to take public testimony during that portion, that would be the board's will. You could
well,
do
we're
that.
gonna be holding, under the procedure, we have to hold 2 public hearings anyway.
I would
right?
feel more comfortable bringing a draft to you before you even sent it to public hearing, because it's gonna be a major rewrite. I just wanna make sure before we even put something out there
Well-
for public hearing.
My reasoning for asking that question is, I don't think you would wanna bring just one person in to comment on it. That should be done during the public hearing where it's a public meeting, instead of just having one person come in
Right.
and have an input on the ordinance. There may be other people that want to come in and have it, and that should be done under the public hearing process
I
and not
understand that,
individually.
but this was his appointment, so he would have been speaking here today anyways if he wasn't ill. So I just want to give him that opportunity to share before, if he wants.
Right, well, when it comes to that point, we'll talk about
Courtesy
it.
heads up.
But I don't like bringing one person in at a time without letting other people come in and may rebut it or maybe not, you know, but I'm just saying, well, why did you let him talk and not me?
I mean, I don't think we're talking about bringing him in, we're
Right.
talking about him,
Should
alerting
come in
him
on
to
the
the
top.
fact that we're working on it.
Right, that's fine.
We'll have an opportunity for public comment in the near
All right,
future.
so that's how we'll proceed.
Okay, I will inform Mr. Chantal.
Next up is the town administrator's report.
Yes, thank you. We're on page
Seven.
7.
Is that it, or can we make a comment related to this last topic?
You want to wait until we're done with the meeting, we have another public comment at that time.
I thought you asked the police chief if you're gonna ask the neighbors and listen to the chief, right, issues.
Is that what you told them they could do, or?
So Mr. Chantal called today and I said the board may allow people to come up and speak. I couldn't promise it, but it'd be really however the chair wants to handle it.
All right, well, we'll give like a couple of minutes, but that's,
That's fine, that's
yeah,
fine.
that's because
That's fine, just wanna put some
yeah.
input, 'cause I don't want- I can't
It's
forget.
almost like we're starting a public hearing when you do
No,
that.
it's just something real quick. My name is Patrick McEntee. I live at 80 North Mass Street, right in the intersection of Church Street and North Mass, right across from Steve's Mobile. Well, it used to be Steve's Mobile. 4:15 at the latest, you hear Jake brakes, like we all talked about. I'd like to see a sign before the bridge, Parker Station. I believe that's still Goffstown property, or maybe, you know what I mean? It's just, they go by the graveyard, they hit the Jake brake, it shakes the house, he knows that. And then they hit it again down before Tonic Barber Shop, because they're coming down the road too fast. A Jake brake is an engine brake. It's just a convenience. You hit a little lever on your column. It slows the engine RPMs down, so you don't have to use your brakes and downshift. It's just a convenience item. Years ago, trucks never had them. They used to downshift and go slow, use their brakes. They're just trying to bypass that. It's a quick slowdown. I agree, it's good for an emergency. If traffic stops real quick, boom, hit the Jake brake and you stop. I believe in that. That's for a safety reason. But they're using it for convenience, and they come down every morning and hit that Jake brake. Okay, all the way down through the town. He's heard it too. If they put a sign, I don't think you have to base your process on what other towns do. We can do it as our own town, no Jake brakes. Because they're obviously speeding down here. And the police used to sit at Steve's Mobile every morning. I'd see them on the way to work. I leave at around 5 o'clock, 4:30. And they'd sit out there. They haven't sat out there for a couple of years since new ownership. And they could hear the things coming down the road clearly, obviously. I mean, it wasn't an issue then to them because they didn't think about it. They were on the computer working or whatever. But I mean, if the police could go back to that gas station in the morning, they could hear those Jake brakes around 4:30 while they're still on duty and hear them coming down. They don't have to stop them, but at least they'll understand what we have to deal with in this neighborhood.
Get it? Okay, thank you.
And as far as Mr. LeMay's comment about motorcycles, I have a motorcycle, and I had the decibels checked when I had it dyno tuned. I agree with the D-cell pop when they come down, let off the throttle, and you hear the bang, 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 that's annoying as hell. So, but the Jake brake thing, I mean, a simple sign is something I think the town could just do.
Well, it's not that simple. We have to
Well,
go
going
through
through
the
the
whole
process, right, but I mean, we don't have to go just because another town doesn't do it, I mean, all our.
Yeah, and we don't have anybody else here to speak to it, but I think we did, you were speaking for Mr. Chantal, so.
Right.
We'll go with that. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Peter?
Be all right if I just,
Yeah, quickly.
I'll be very quick.
This isn't a public hearing, so.
Maurice Blondo, I'm 81 Church Street, so I'm one street removed from 114, and I just want to echo the sentiments. And as someone who owned a truck with a Jake brake years ago, I can tell you that there are a lot of communities that have signs, because when you're driving one, you're looking for the sign, that's when you notice them, and they're everywhere, and it's for good reason. And it really is a more of a convenience thing, unless you have a very large load going down a very long decline, it's most of the time unnecessary.
Which,
so.
that, one of the things that concerns me when you talk like that, you talk about him up on Patty Hill Road, that's a long decline right now. And that can cause a problem. Somebody that's up on the mountain, coming down the mountain would use the Jake, downshift, sure, but they'd also use a Jake to help the brake. It's an exhaust brake, it uses the exhaust of the system.
Right, to keep the brakes from overheating
Right.
and whatnot, so.
There are
I
reasons
can't
like you-
speak to any professionalism on that, I'm just saying, it's a common thing to have ordinances going into towns and
Yep,
villages.
I see them all. Yeah,
okay.
I agree. All right, thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Derek.
At page 7, you have your committee meeting scheduled for the next week. Tomorrow night at 5:30 PM, the Village Bridge Ad Hoc Committee will meet at the Parks and Rec Building.
Yep, got it.
At 6 PM, the Budget Committee will meet at the High School Media Center to discuss town and school articles.
Yep,
Wednesday at 6 PM, Economic Development Council will meet in this room.
yep.
And Thursday at 7 PM, Planning Board will be in this room.
Yes.
And then just a reminder, you do have a meeting next Monday. On your next page, you have your consent agenda. You have an employee status report for a per diem EMT. This is a resignation. You have an Eversource pole license on Patty Hill Road that needs a signature of the board in duplicate. You have a prosecutorial service contract for the 2025 with the town of Francistown. You have a dispatch agreement for 2025 through 2027 for the following communities: the town of Dunbarton Police, town of Ware Police, and town of New Boston Police.
Are these all first of the year to end of the year contracts?
So the Francistown one is a 1-year contract, the other are 3-year contracts. Yes.
So to the end of those years?
January 1st.
Okay.
Yep.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries.
At page 9, just got a summary to bring the board up to date on the 2025 budget process, and Kelly can probably add a little bit to this. Right now, the Budget Committee has made reductions totaling just over $2 million to the town budget. Again, the Budget Committee will take up special articles tomorrow night. Right now, our default budget, and this is the operating budget only, this does not include the CBA with the professional firefighters of Goffstown. But right now, the estimated tax impact on default would be a reduction of about 3 cents on the tax rate, which would be about $11.81 saving on the median single-family residential bill. The Budget Committee's budget, where it currently stands, would be an increase of $486,349 when compared to the 2024 appropriation. And that estimated tax impact would be about 19 cents, or about $76.73. And on the following page, you have all the individual lines that you've cut. As you can see, the majority, almost 1.98 million, has come from CIP, and then the remainder of about $57,000 has come from admin, police, and DPW, and Parks and Rec. So, I bring this all to your attention. I don't know if the board wants to entertain any additional warrant articles. Again, when we last met on December 16th, staff had the recommendation to remove the additional $200,000 for road plan funding, that warrant article. But again, the select board does have the option to add additional warrant articles and additional appropriations, as long as you take a vote to do that either this evening or at your meeting next Monday.
Well, I think that decisions were made at that board that I think belong in the hands of the voters. One would be the Packer, one would be the pickle board. Those should go out to special articles. This is, you know, should do a solid waste, just a complete solid waste with the 450 Packer and then the roll-off. I'm not sure what qualifies that committee to decide what we need for our trash pickup. Either that, or we can just cut trash completely and make it, people can pick it up, send it to the transfer station themselves. You can't cut the equipment and expect us to continue to pick up trash. And I call us, I know you don't like to hear that,
Well,
but the problem is,
I know what the problem
they're
is.
cutting almost, what, $700,000 out of the trash?
Yep, yep. I
And
understand.
how do you expect that operation to continue? We had a problem the other day with one of the trucks was down, or the truck was down. I mean, you can't let your equipment go to, that's how I'm feeling. I mean, they cut some silly stuff out of here that we need to maintain. $1.5 million out of DPW, or out of the CIP? Go ahead, Carlos, you can.
No, I don't, I agree with you, Peter. I think some of it's over the top. I mean, we've got to continue picking up our trash. If we don't do that, it's going out on the streets.
I don't know if that's true. I don't see it
Oh,
in
I know it's
Bedford,
true.
I don't see it in New Boston, I don't see it in Ware. I don't see the trash on the side of the street. I see people having to take it to the dump or their transfer stations.
I don't like it.
New Boston's been, Bedford does it. Streets aren't dirty.
I agree with you, Peter, but they were brought up and raised that way. Here, we're taking away a service.
Right.
They're just gonna put it there by the street and, I mean, the other day I heard 3 or 4 times because of the trash issue we had, trash barrels blown over, there was trash all over here, all over there. I mean, it'll just,
Well, that would be done. That wouldn't be your problem anymore. You know? I mean, you can't cut the teeth out of something and
oh, I
expect
agree,
it.
I agree.
So what do you want to do? Put it all out to a special article? In order to maintain our trash pickup, disposal system, whatever, this special article needs to be passed. In order to maintain our equipment. I mean, it has to be done.
Yeah,
Yep. No question. in my
I
mind.
agree.
I will say that The budget committee did talk about, with Adam, the solid waste vehicle and the rotation of vehicles that were available to do trash pickup. So this one would be replacing the fourth, is that correct?
Correct, we
Yeah.
currently have 4 that go through a rotation because they're all varying ages.
Oh, yeah, and some of them are already in trouble. Even our new ones aren't working right.
Yep.
The week of New Year's, I think it was New Year's Eve, they went to Saturday because they were having issues.
But the budget committee, some members of the budget committee think that they can maintain rotating through 3 instead of 4.
They're the experts, which expert is over there? Which one is the expert on trash over at the budget committee?
I couldn't tell you, but the vote was made
I mean,
to
yeah.
reduce it. I'm just sharing.
Does this represent one truck? Is that,
So there's 2 items in here. Adam had in CIP the $430,000 to replace solid waste packer.
Yep.
And then he also had $285,000, and that was the roll-off truck. That was to get away from having the semi-trail, or the semi and the long bed that you need a CDLA, and to kind of switch over to smaller cans that you only need a CDLB, but it would also allow us to switch in and have other companies, if we had for some reason that they needed to come in, that they could pick up our cans as well.
There's people that can come and just pick up the cans much easier than they can haul a trailer.
I will say on the solid waste vehicle, we did share about, difficulties we've had with other vehicles in manufacturing. There was a request made from the budget committee to see if we could enter into a contract for purchase without actually putting down any money.
A lease purchase, what was it?
So I think this stems from the conversation of the fire chief. Now that fire trucks and ambulances are taking 3 to 4 years to be manufactured, there's actually some companies that produce these vehicles that said you can put in a soft order because they know that when it comes time to deliver the product, if you don't want it, they will have other buyers that can take that item. So there's no cost, basically no cost, no commitment orders that some of the fire trucks are taking. So the question from the budget committee is this occurring with other large equipment like a solid waste packer?
And we did also share the kind of historic trend that we've seen with vehicles, especially since COVID, is that the price is increasing. So having, them acknowledge that pushing these off could just potentially, they could cost more in the future. So just giving you guys the context for that decision.
Well, I would say we can put it out as a special article and let them, the budget committee, not recommend it. That way, if we accept this, we accept this, the responsibility also.
Tacit approval.
So if we put it out to a special article and we recommend it and the budget committee does it, and then there's an issue, hey, we recommended it and the budget, the voters voted it down. It's easier to explain something like that than not even have it at the option to do that. And Mark, you've said it many times, you said, let's give it to the voters to make the
Yeah,
decision.
exactly how I feel.
So I feel the same way about the road reclamation cuts. I mean, we've heard time and time again, and I can tell you, speaking as an engineer, once you start letting your roads go to hell, they go to hell quick. I'm talking 1 or 2 years. Once the pavement starts to crumble, even on the edges, it goes very quickly.
And we'll never catch up.
You will never catch up.
Perfect
So,
example. Come look at
This is one of those
Rochambeau Street.
things where I say you're being penny wise and pound foolish. You try and save a little bit of money here, but you're gonna pay for it big time, 2 or 3 years down the road.
And I'm
It's
sure
just
you-
the way it is.
And I'm sure you've heard of the saying before, all we're doing here, Collis, is kicking the can down the road, baby.
Yeah.
It's gonna cost us more later on down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark can attest to my disappointment in that decision because
Which one?
I've been an advocate for increasing and getting back up to a reasonable amount of road reclamation, and also had shared with him that we had removed the $200,000 additional road reclamation money. And so that amount was still
I don't want to remove that.
taken out.
The ballot counting machines are being picked up by the state, right? And there, wasn't there,
So there was in here, you'll see on the 10th of December, they did reduce the ballot counting devices down from 50,000 down to 35,000. That was at my recommendation. The state of New Hampshire has a grant program that'll pay for the first $3,500 of the replacement. We have 5 machines, so that really represents the portion that the state will be picking up, and it's not a reimbursement grant, so we don't necessarily need the appropriation. They are going to pay directly to the vendor to basically reduce that price for
$3,500.
towns. So the $35,000 that remains in the budget right now would be sufficient to replace the ballot counting devices.
So if we were to make that motion tonight, how much money for DPW will they need for,
Make what motion?
well, to put back in the, what Peter mentioned before, the,
Oh,
well,
putting
it's
it to the
4:30,
voters?
4:30, and then, when you had the trailer, they cut, there was the
285.
line, yeah, they just cut 50,000 out of the trailer, so.
No, the trailers that you see right below the 50,000, those are messaging trailers. The roll-off trailers were 285
285 to
for
zero.
solid waste.
Well, that's what I'm saying, they just reduced it by 50,000, which were the sign trailers, right?
No, it's further down. It's,
Well, what's the one which is 18-foot trailer and message trailer?
Those are-
Reduced the line to 430,000. And they cut 50,000 of it.
So part of it was the messaging trailers,
that was part of it was the
and then the
messaging.
18-foot trailer is like an 18-foot enclosed like paint trailer. I think is what they said it was, the paint one, utility trailer. So
The solid waste ones, you'll see under, I think it's like the 4th column, it says DPW solid waste vehicles.
yeah,
So, you've got the solid waste Packard, they removed that completely for $430,000, and then about 6 rows below that, they removed the roll-off truck, that was.
For 285.
285, that was in CIP.
so those two together are 715.
So in order to continue our trash pickup, which Collis and Mark have said that it's necessary to be done, we need to spend that $750,000 to maintain our fleet.
To replace aging items, I think if you really want to make that statement, you should talk to Adam, because right now they're just spending more on repairs of the existing 4 vehicles. I don't know that it would be fair to say that it's either all or nothing, it's just, but your repair costs on those Packers is gonna go up, and the downtime is gonna go up as well.
Okay.
So
I
we
want to speak to the
could,
message board too, if I can. I found it very interesting that at the budget committee meeting, somebody got up and said, how come we don't know? We need better ways of knowing what's going on in this town. And at that very same meeting later on, they said, cut out the messaging board, a way to get messages out to the public. I found that very interesting.
We use them all, everybody uses them.
Yeah.
Anywhere you go all over, they're using them. The police department, 34,000, that just got rid of the Tahoes, you still got the same vehicle count, right?
Yes, yep, that still maintains 3 replacements.
And the election officials now, supervisors of the checklists, they get paid, right? Is that coming out of there too?
yes.
So they made, I think it was 3 separate votes to reduce all elected official stipends. The only one that they would maintain would be the town clerk, which is an elected position but it works full-time. But this would reduce the select board stipend, the supervisors of the checklist monthly stipend, as well as the moderator and assistant moderators stipends as well.
Well, that's gonna go back in. Not cutting that. We can cut that when it comes time to do the budget, that'll stay. That's crazy, you can't, those people are not gonna work, they got elected with a pay. And then you say, well, we changed our mind, we're not gonna pay you for your position you're elected to? That's crazy.
I would love to say something, but it's a conflict for me,
I know,
so
I
I
understand.
can't.
I hope I said it enough for you,
No, you did. Thank you, Peter.
so. We'll worry about that when it comes time to do the budget. So
So what's
I'm
your-
advocating
what's
that
your plan
we
for
do a
that?
special article for the, you said 750?
7:15.
715, to maintain our recycles and our trash vehicles. And then the, Kelly, should we do the special article for the roads?
Yeah.
Put the money
I-
back in?
I am conflicted about putting forward a number of special articles because the firefighter's contract is gonna be on the ballot, and I think that that's gonna be
Yeah, I
an
understand.
important
I
thing to
agree
get
with you.
passed. And
Yeah.
coming
But-
out of a default year, I'm more concerned that the budget and their contract pass. So I just.
I'm concerned we're also maintaining the town facilities and town roads.
Service.
I mean, I understand that contract, that's a safety item, I get behind that, but
Yep.
you're letting our fleet and our roads get depleted because we wanna make sure somebody gets their contract. It's always gonna be a contract, it seems like. Next year, we don't have one, isn't that right?
Can I finish?
Go ahead, I thought you were done.
Thank you. No. So the budget, the contract, and then anything that's going underneath that, I think if we're gonna push it forward into a special article, that we need to be prepared to explain it in detail, knowing that we're up against coming out of default, people having strong feelings about any increase to the taxes, and if we're gonna include tennis and pickleball courts and things like that, that we make sure that the no vote doesn't mean no forever, it just means within that budget year. That's overall what I'm concerned with. I feel very strongly about road reclamation, however, we've reduced so much of our CIP vehicles that condensing of cost in years moving forward, I'm worried about that. I'm worried about the cut that reclamation's taking. I'm worried about a lot of it overall, because I think that the focus very much has been on the current increase for this upcoming vote and not the long-term maintenance of our community and what that means. So I think we just need to be mindful of what we're choosing.
How much did they spend on the school side?
I don't know anything, the school board stipends and,
I think the school board stipends, and I only heard a couple motions. I wasn't able to attend their full meeting. I believe there was a field trip and the stipends and maybe one other.
$2 million worth?
No.
no, but there was a lot of mention made about the school's default being close to their proposed and ours being pretty far apart. So I know that was,
Well, maybe next year we should
ongoing
take a look at
concern.
how we figure out default and fall of the schools. It seems like that's how it works. Okay, so anyway, I understand how your feeling is, but I think that it's important to maintain our fleet and the roads. If you don't want to put pickleball out there, I understand. It's a lot of money for pickleball court at this time.
I will say there's, about half of that, there's offsetting revenue.
225.
Yeah.
So it's really, when they cut 470, did they also?
We also will
We
remove it
remove
from
the
the revenue
revenue, yeah.
projection, yes. So it's a net tax impact of saving just under 250,
Yeah.
245.
So that one is a little bit less, but the offsetting revenue from the revolving fund and
Impact fee.
the impact fees for the pickleball portion are obviously not reflected in that, so. I don't know if we can put that on.
If it's in a special warrant article,
In an
we would be
article?
outlining that.
You could, but I think, I would echo Kelly's comments of you need to prioritize the budget committee's budget going forward so that it can pass. Because right now, the gap is about $450,000 between default, but that will have a pretty significant impact, I think, if we're in default again.
Right.
So,
But if they put them as a special article, that doesn't affect that. What doesn't affect the budget committee's budget could still pass along with the special article.
absolutely. I think what we have heard from the people that have chosen to come out and speak at public comment at the budget committee is they look at the entire warrant together.
You look at the big picture.
They look at the big picture together. So by proposing too many special articles,
Yeah, I disagree. You gotta have the people, all the other people have an opportunity to voice their opinion on stuff like that too. Not the ones that, you know, the few that come in and speak at the budget committee meeting because they're already riled up, they're called, come down and speak, you know, voice your opinion. So I'm not sure that that's everybody's opinion.
I agree. I just want to
I
try to
understand.
prioritize if that's our feeling that we want to put things to special article.
You know, on some of these big ticket DPW items like the road reclamation, I mean, they talk about cutting it, but they don't give it any context. What will it mean if we reduce it by this much? How many miles of road will not be reclaimed, will not be resurfaced? Where will they be throughout town? Because, you know, they seem to lack any substance to a lot of the cuts they were making.
Well, you know, as I travel around, I get to talk to a lot of people, and even a DPW vehicle, there's only that one truck with the saw and the planter. I could see the saw and the sander and the plow, but that vehicle was not, they didn't replace the vehicle, so now that's much less plowing that's getting done early. They don't put somebody in another truck, so right now we're gonna keep an old truck, sounds like. I mean, it's just, when you let your fleet go, we're in trouble. I don't think anybody was here, well, maybe you were here, when it got so bad that they went to Manchester Mac and had to lease trucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
At least 3 of them,
Yeah.
How'd you get to that situation?
because of the maintenance of the trucks, they're old, they never got any new ones, they just fell apart and
And there was didn't have the funds to, so they just went, they did a lease on them. Well, you weren't around for that.
I'm not in a position that I was involved with the budget, so.
And that didn't go over very well. So we need to make this decision tonight, is what you're saying?
You don't need to make the decision tonight. It would benefit you if this is something that you're very set on, that you want to propose a special article. It allows us to present it to the budget committee tomorrow night and then present it again at public hearing. However, appropriation articles can be given to the budget committee as late as the second Tuesday in January, which is the 14th. So you could make this decision next Monday.
Input from anybody?
Well, again, I don't want to reiterate myself, but I'm going to. I think we need some background information. People need to understand what it's going to mean to them as they drive around town if we cut the road reclamation plan that heavily. Here's what it's going to mean to you. If we take out the packer, here's what it's going to mean to you. People aren't seeing it and how it's going to impact their day-to-day lives. Your trash is not going to get picked up anymore, people. You're going to have to get in your car and drive it down to the transfer station yourself.
oh, I agree.
Is that, when you put out the information, is that electioneering?
Is what electioneering?
When you put out, like he's talking about, if we don't do this, this is the consequence.
This is what's
So
going
I
on.
think I would advise you that it would need to be the decision of the board that's seated in March on what if you are going to change services. If you are going to continue services, I think you would want to ask Adam that if you maintain the 4 vehicles that he currently has, what do you anticipate for additional downtime, additional
Money's expensive.
monies for repairs, and what do you anticipate the cost to be next year? Because, again, I don't think we're at a point where it's, you either purchase this Packer or we stop picking up the truck. I don't think you're at that point.
I understand what you're saying, but the Packer, you can't call and get a Packer tomorrow. That's something that has to be ordered, and it's usually.
Specially designed and,
Yeah.
again, like a fire truck, takes a year.
Yeah.
A year and a
So,
half.
I mean, it's,
Do you want, I mean, I'd be happy to get some background information and potentially have Adam come in at your meeting next Monday, present some information on what is the timeline for a new Packer? What does he anticipate, or what has he seen for increased downtime, increased repair bills, those kind of things?
But that wouldn't be included in a warrant article.
Those
So
would be in the vote, yes,
Voter's
correct, those
guide.
would be in the voter's guide only.
And if we cut back on road reclamation, what would
Yeah,
that
what
mean?
now?
What's that
So
gonna
he
look
did
like?
present that to the budget committee, and he did a quick
Yeah,
back of the envelope,
By miles.
yeah, how many linear miles of reclamation, or how many of what it would be. So he did talk about that with the budget committee.
And we could include that in the voter's guide
We
as
could
well.
include that.
I think it would be in the board's best interest to give the budget committee the capital, any special articles or capital expenditures you're looking at adding separately tomorrow evening, if there are items that you want to move forward with, just to give them the timeline. They have asked that those items be brought forward tomorrow, so.
we have until a certain date to do it, it's nice that they asked for it. It'd be nice if we could make that decision this week, that quick, but I want to make sure that if you would like, you would get the consensus of the board that said, if you wanted to go tomorrow night and say, board is anticipating doing a special article which would include the trash truck, and the road reclamation. I don't think there's anything going like that. We don't have to give it to them tomorrow night.
I think we can tell them that you are considering that, and that you're gonna have the DPW director come in on the 13th to give you some more factual information so you can make an informed decision. I think we can definitely do that tomorrow night.
Okay, that's the way I would approach. How about you
yeah,
guys?
yeah.
Yep,
Okay,
I'll go
yeah.
along with that.
Yes, but, well, we can't really take a formal vote on that, but I just want to make sure everyone's in agreement that it's road reclamation, which is $450,000. Are you anticipating that entire amount being on a warrant article?
No, it's 450, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, and then also for the Packer,
715,
so you're talking the 430 for the Packer, and then the
285.
roll-off trailer, right?
Yep.
Mhm, okay. I just want to make sure that,
Yeah, roll-off truck with the trailer.
so those three. Anything else?
Yeah, I want to see the message board stay on, but
That's, I like the message boards too, Collis, but that's more of it's nice to have versus when,
I know, Peter.
It's
It's
just
a want,
the-
not a need. Geez, I don't want to hear that anymore from the budget. Good Lord.
It's just the trailers though, and the current trailers are still operational and working, it's just to upgrade them. So it's not the message boards themselves, just the trailer.
It's just the trailer frame?
I thought it was the whole board.
I did too, maybe I'm
I think it is one unit, but Kelly's correct in that Adam said they are currently still working, but they're the manual crank version,
Yeah.
as opposed to the newer style would be, have like a hydraulic
Yeah.
lifting
Yeah.
component.
All right,
Yeah.
that
I can
helps.
double check, but,
So that would be my recommendation, and that's up to you guys what you think, I don't know.
I'll go along with that.
Yep, if that's
Jim?
the case.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
So that seems like it's the consensus of the board, but not yet a formal decision.
That would be
And
exactly,
I'll ask Adam to come in next week and kind of speak to what would the increased cost on maintenance and as well as increased downtime for those two items, as well as what is the impact of the reduction to reclamation.
now, is there anything else on here that was already handled, like the e-bikes, didn't we do that?
That was.
Yes, and that's why the removal of the e-bikes was done, because you paid through that, through the Invest NH money.
Is there anything else on here that was done like that?
No, there were no other projects that were used for current grant funds. Again, we did recommend the reduction of ballot counting devices because we knew of that grant. Rick had made a recommendation that they could cut $9,000 from part-time wages based on what he's seeing for the lifeguards and the camp counselors that he brings. So that change was based on his recommendation. Elected officials, at some point, this board will need to make a decision on that. We don't have the same benefit that the school district has. The school district will have a budget voted on before it gets enacted, whereas you are currently already operating in your 2025 budget. So at some point, we'll need a decision on what you want to do about the elected officials. And then trying to think, the cruisers, again, there still are 3 cruisers. They did want to cut a cruiser, but we spoke to them and encouraged them to maintain 3 cruisers and just change from 2 Tahoes and the Ford.
Suburban.
Yeah, the Ford.
Suburban or the Explorer, whatever.
Yep. I think that's,
And the window project at
the windows they
library.
cut in half and have been recommending that the library start looking to grant funding opportunities through LCHIP. So,
Can I ask a question? How do the CIP cuts affect the departments?
What do you mean?
There's almost 2 million in CIP.
oh, are you talking the first page on
Yes,
page
yeah,
9?
Yeah.
I just tried to highlight which departments they came from. The biggest hit is obviously DPW, and the biggest one is going to be reclamation. He goes from a budget of $1.6 million in his reclamation line to just over 1.1. So that's going to change the operations that he does, as well as what he is, what we're doing for reclamation. I think he indicated that he would push off some of the reclamation projects because you don't want to let a road that's in good condition get too far. So they would basically delay some of the reclamation projects.
Because that's about a third of the
It's
reclamation.
more expensive, and a road that needs reclaiming is going to need reclaiming next year, whereas a road that's in good condition, if you can shim it and overlay it.
I understand what you're saying, but some of those roads that need reclamation are terrible.
Yes, Yep. Understood.
You know,
There's always that cautionary call out there, keep your good roads good, because once they slip,
So-
very expensive.
Go ahead, Danielle.
So the other thing on the 13th is I'll review the current schedule for impact fees and just let you know if there are any Parks and Rec impact fees that we see expiring, in which case a project, it may or may not impact the decision on whether or not there's an article for that project, but I just want to let you know so we can have that on the radar. I don't know off the top of my head right now where they're at.
Can I ask a question about that, Parks and Rec? If they decided, the Parks and Rec Commission decided to do a article on their own,
A petition?
petitioned article, would they be able to also use those revenues?
So a citizen's petition article can direct the town to appropriate funds for a project and identify offsetting revenues as well.
They can?
They
Yeah.
can, yes.
So that's an option for Parks and Rec. And I don't think, I'm sure they wouldn't have any problem getting enough signatures to do that. I mean, then it's up to them, so. We don't have the authority to tell them they can't do that. Okay, what's next?
So your next page, page 11, and following on page 12, you have a draft warrant. And unfortunately, I don't have numbers on the articles yet because we're still waiting to see what planning board will do with their zoning amendments. They have another hearing scheduled for this Thursday. But you have your general fund operating budget article, and then on page 13, you have the sewer enterprise fund operating budget article. Again, it is our recommendation this year that the select board consider breaking those apart to do the general fund operating budget as one article and the sewer enterprise fund as another. We are waiting on some feedback from DRA on the sewer enterprise fund. The sewer commissioners had requested some language, and Danielle is checking with DRA to see if that would be acceptable under their rules.
Didn't they also cut their stipend?
They did? Yes, they did.
And the budget committee has the authority to do that, even though it's an enterprise fund?
They have the ability to make a recommendation on appropriations.
Okay.
So it's, they're making a recommendation on appropriations. So they reduce the sewer enterprise fund by that amount. So when it all gets said and done, they're gonna recommend an appropriation to the voters, and then it'll be up to the sewer commissioners, as well as all governing bodies, on how to use that appropriation.
Okay.
You have the professional firefighters CBA, which we'll speak about a little bit later this evening. On page 14, we have the deposit into the fire apparatus capital reserve fund from unassigned fund balance. It's my understanding the board wants to continue to move forward with that, so I'm glad to see that. We'll be explaining that to the budget committee tomorrow night, of the history of it, of the funds that have gone into it and what it has been used for, as well as the predicted future of what's going to be replaced by the fire department. We also have the modification of cable access revolving fund. Last year, you increased the amount of cable franchise fee from 40% to 70%. This year, we're asking you to go to 100%. Again, those franchise fees are starting to decline, and at some point, we expect that there may be changes on the federal FCC level on those as well. So we feel it is appropriate to get as much into the cable access revolving fund as possible before anything happens. We also have the modification of the solar exemption to change that from 10 kilowatts to 20 kilowatts. And then we also have the 3 articles that the board is contemplating that you spoke of this evening, that we will present again to you next week. So those are your articles right now. And I'm not seeking for action on this, but just a reminder that any appropriation articles, we do need to know next Monday what those are going to be. Yep.
Okay. Do we have any new business? Is that new business, more or less?
That's more or less.
Old business, have we had any talks about the police station?
So we've had at least one vendor reach out to us. I know, talking with the police chief, he and I need to meet. We did not get any questions that were due in for the question period, so we were going to look at possibly extending the period for submissions and then reach out to some more vendors, to that way we can have a better submittal process.
And we're still waiting on the grant?
Yeah, the firehouse sub-grants, again, that's a rolling grant. They only take so many applications, and the fire department will continue to submit those as they can.
So the only thing we have out of service is the curbside packer.
Yes.
And that is our newest one, if I understood that right.
371, let me see, I've got the CIP matrix.
I don't think it's the new one. I saw the new one out the
Oh,
other
did
day.
you? I thought you said it was a new one.
No, 371 is the 2019.
Yeah.
Yep, that is the one that
The one we
is,
just had the engine redone, right?
yep, that's the one, yep.
Transmission.
$34,000 engine?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. We're going to non-public? Is that what we're doing?
So I actually have, I don't have any non-public items. What I would have you do is recess the meeting so that you can go into non-meeting to discuss collective bargaining that is allowed under RSA 91A, and then to reconvene the meeting so that you can make a vote on recommendation on the tentative agreement and the cost items.
Okay. So, do we want to make a motion?
I'll make a
Well,
motion.
Peter, I'm sorry, can I bring up one other item? I think
Oh, go ahead,
just an
Charles.
FYI for the board. The River Advisory Committee that was established by this board, we had Corey Clark in from DES talk a lot about the engineering aspects of dam removals, what's it cost, what's it mean, as far as Hadley Falls, Greg's Falls, and down at Namaski. And that was very informative, but it was on the hard engineering side of things. The committee wanted to hear about the fisheries end of it. What does it mean to the fisheries when we start removing or altering dams? So Matt Carpenter from Fish and Game is going to come to our meeting on Thursday night?
On Wednesday the 15th.
Wednesday the 15th, to talk about the fisheries and the impact of dams and dam removal on fisheries. So it's kind of the biology end of it as opposed to the engineering end.
Oh, that's cool.
Just an FYI.
Thank you.
Okay, so Mark, make a motion?
Make a motion at this time, we take a recess and
Go into
Go
non-meeting.
on to non-meeting.
non-meeting.
Yep, and then when you come back out, it'll be a brief, just to take a vote on the public, so that portion will not be on the television.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Kelly to go into a recess. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, seeing none, motion passes.
She just called over.